My name is Judy Machira. I'm going to do a presentation about culture, case management, care management, and interdisciplinary care. This is for Regis College class of nursing NU 510 community nursing. Enjoy and welcome. So what is culture? It has many descriptions. It could be the language, the music, economy, fashion, religion, and art of a given community. It also includes some aspects that are not obvious as the ones that I've mentioned above. It has its own uniqueness and it has set known behaviors that are shared by a group of people. These are passed from generation to generation, and culture is how these people approach the world. Culture is so involving that some people are unconscious of its effect on them. Properties of culture include that it is not static. It is a changing phenomenon in that whatever culture was practiced by a certain group, maybe let's say in the 1960s, is not what they are practicing in the 2000s. Culture is also shared. It's not private. It's shared among the family, the peers, and so on and so forth. It is learned and not inherited. It's not like DNA. It is handed down from parents and siblings or neighbors and even teachers and the rest of the society. Nurses need to understand that just because one comes from a certain culture, it does not mean that they have to act, believe, and the same as that culture. For instance, if a Chinese kid is born in the United States, they're not necessarily going to have the Chinese culture inbuilt in them because they have been removed from where the main culture is, that is in China, and now they have assimilated to the culture of the United States. Understanding and culture is also understanding and communicating that people can be different and that it is important to know that people can be different. Cultural competence includes but not limited to cultural awareness, sensitivity, knowledge, skills, and the dynamic process. Nurses and cultural competence. In nursing, cultural competence means considering cultural aspects of health, illness, and treatment for each client or the community as well, and as doing so at each stage of the nursing process. So it is a process, and nurses can never achieve a point of mastery, but should always strive to continually provide culturally competent care. It is not a generic approach, and learning cultural competence like that can lead to stereotyping and failure to understand the needs of the individual receiving care. Nurses should purpose to serve their patients in culturally sensitive and effective manners always. The current globalization and migration portrays the significance of culture in our daily lives and how culture has become more pronounced. Cross-cultural interactions have become inevitable. In many hospitals, one can find up to over 100 languages being spoken. Thus, patient-centered care must incorporate cultural needs respectively. Interdisciplinary care. This is when various members of the healthcare team come together to contribute their expertise to the management of patients. They make up a team that is always or most likely led by the nurse. The team is made up of course, nurses, doctors, physical therapists, occupational therapists, nutritionists, social workers, nurses' aides, speech therapists, who assist the nurses in meeting all the patient's needs. The goal of this team is to work together in a complementary way to help clients and families on day-to-day basis of their needs and assessing those. Care management is the evaluation of healthcare interventions which are used in assessing the needs and appropriateness of care and the steps taken to gain effective and efficient outcomes. This is a key component of patient care as it keeps the rising healthcare costs in check. It also helps to anticipate the needs of a patient beforehand so that they can go ahead and plan. Case management. Per the Case Management Society of America, this is a collaborative process of assessment, planning, facilitation, advocacy of options and services to meet an individual's health needs through communication and available resources to promote quality, cost-effective outcomes. It is also when a healthcare professional advocates for the resources needed by a client. This also involves coordination of multiple aspects of care to ensure that the patient progresses well. These resources include advocacy, education, continuity or transition management, financial management, psychosocial management, research and development. So on to our case study. So this is a situation that happened in the emergency room of one hospital that I happened to work in. And it involved Mr. and Mrs. Jones, who are an elderly couple that was brought into the emergency room by police officers after a concerned neighbor noticed that they had not seen them for a while or anyone around their house for about a week. In the emergency room, they were assessed and found to be dehydrated and slightly malnourished. They were more disheveled than sick, so they looked unkempt. They had long, dirty hair, dirty torn clothes that were not appropriate for the winter weather. Their nails, both on their fingers and toes, were shockingly long and dirty, meaning that they could not do it for themselves and nobody was doing it for them in that case. So the emergency department doctors did their medical assessments and treatments where they rehydrated them and stabilized them, and after that ordered consultations by physical therapists, psychiatry and podiatry. They then admitted them as inpatients to enable them meet a couple of consultants and case management so that they can come in and help them with the services that they needed at that point. Case management was a person that had a great role to play for this couple. They had to find a lot of resources for them. And first of all, they had to find out what was the source of their livelihood, who was the next of kin, and also investigate their living conditions and how their home looked like. After finding these answers, the case managers then determined what services they needed and determined how they would qualify for those services. So it took a long time, and after that investigation, case managers were able to ascertain that the Joneses were suffering from memory loss, probably dementia that had been undiagnosed and could not live independently. The only next of kin who was connected or linked to them was the woman who lived with their son, and this was their only son who had died a few months earlier. This woman was clearly not able to meet their care and their daily needs, and she moved on with her life. Thus, case management took full responsibility of this case or their well-being and managed to gather all the resources and contacts and also line up their future settlement, which ended up being a long-term care facility for memory loss, where they had to get a lot of government assistance and they were eligible. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed and learned from it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.